The movie opens with a married couple driving through vast farmland in rural Australia. In the middle of the road, their car suddenly swerves after they nearly hit a mongoose, forcing them to stop abruptly. While the two are still arguing about what just happened, a herd of wild boars suddenly runs across the road, leaving them confused and uneasy. Just as they are about to continue their journey, something suddenly slams into the car and violently attacks it from the outside. The story then shifts to a small village, where a farmer named Ken and his dog Blue are preparing to begin their daily routine. At the same time, another family is heading out to visit their uncle Bernie. While stopping briefly at a convenience store to use the restroom, Ella and Robert almost behaved inappropriately. Fortunately, they are interrupted by a man named Ernie. Robert looks down on him at first, assuming he is just a beggar. However, he soon learns that Ernie is actually the owner of the entire property, leaving Robert extremely embarrassed. Not far from there, Ken and his daughter Sasha quietly observe the arrival of the visiting family. However, Sasha shows little interest since she is busy preparing her cafe for the day. After a long drive, Bruce's family finally arrives at Bernie's house and is warmly welcomed. Ella also introduces Robert to her large and intimidating uncle. Later that evening, an unnamed farmer is resting inside his barn when he suddenly realizes that his dog has disappeared. As he goes outside to search for it, he begins hearing strange noises coming from the darkness. While trying to locate the source of the sound, he accidentally gets his leg caught in a barbed wire fence. Suddenly, the wire is violently pulled by something unseen, tearing his leg completely off. As he lies there dying, a horrifying creature drags his body away into the darkness. The next morning, the village returns to its normal routine, completely unaware of the horrific events that took place during the night. Ken is alone in the field repairing a damaged fence. He calls Blue and asks him to stop by Sasha's cafe to pick up some food and bring it back. At the cafe, Sasha continues serving customers as usual, including Anna and Wendy, who often tease her and joke that Ken should get married again. Not long after, Blue arrives to collect the food, and Sasha asks him to remind her father not to drink too much and to finish his work early. Meanwhile, the threat from the mysterious creature remains completely unknown to the villagers. The following night, the horror returns once again. A teenage couple named Ryan and Hannah secretly set up a tent on farmland without permission. Not far away, Ken and Blue are drinking together and talking about Ken's late wife, who passed away 7 years ago. Their attention is soon drawn to the campsite nearby, so they decide to go check it out. However, before they can reach the area, the violent creature attacks the campsite and brutally kills the two teenagers. Hearing the noise, Ken and Blue hurry toward the location, stumbling slightly due to the alcohol. From a distance, Ken spots a massive wild boar, as large as a rhinoceros, that has destroyed the tents. Still drunk, he hands his rifle to Blue and tells him to shoot. Unfortunately, the shot misses and the monstrous animal disappears back into the darkness. The two move closer to investigate, but when they finally reach the site, they discover the teenagers' bodies have been torn apart horrifyingly. Shocked by the gruesome scene, Blue suggests going to get help. However, Ken notices that 2 tents remain untouched, meaning there could still be survivors nearby. Because of this, he decides to continue searching for anyone who might still be alive. Since they have run out of ammunition, Ken tells Blue to return to the vehicle and retrieve more bullets, while he searches the surrounding area for the missing campers. Unfortunately, on his way back, Blue comes face to face with the giant boar and becomes its next victim. Meanwhile, another couple Ken has been searching for is actually deeper inside the forest. Mateo is telling scary stories to his girlfriend Sari. Suddenly, he hears a suspicious sound coming from behind the trees. To investigate, Mateo turns on his flashlight and scans the area, but he finds nothing. After a moment, he switches off the flashlight, hoping the strange sound will finally stop. When the flashlight turns back on, Sari is already impaled on the giant boar's tusks and about to be devoured. Mateo panics and screams for help. Elsewhere, Ken continues following the noises through the forest. Not long after, he arrives at the scene and discovers Mateo already dead, while Sari is still barely alive with her body full of deep wounds. Realizing the creature cannot be far, Ken attempts to lure it out into the open. Just as he expects, the massive boar suddenly charges from behind the trees and begins chasing him. Ken runs between the tree trunks to avoid the animal's direct attacks. Eventually, he makes his way back to Sari, but she has already died from severe blood loss. At that exact moment, the boar charges once again and knocks Ken to the ground. Injured and cornered, he pulls out his knife and prepares for one final stand. The next morning, Bernie is having breakfast with Bruce's family. Afterward, he invites them to take a walk and enjoy the peaceful countryside. Before leaving, They get into a small argument about bringing weapons, since Debbie is still traumatized. In the end, they decide to take a gun for protection and head out together. Back at Sasha's cafe, everything continues as usual. Since Ken still hasn't returned, one rude customer begins causing trouble, making Sasha lose her temper and knock him unconscious. Not long after, Bernie and Bruce's family stop by the cafe to buy more supplies. Bernie easily lifts the unconscious man and carries him outside. Seeing Bernie's strength and attitude, Robert begins to realize that this future uncle-in-law is not someone to underestimate. After finishing the purchase, Bernie buys a few pastries and salted eggs to take along for the trip. At this point, Sasha becomes increasingly worried and asks Bernie for help, explaining that her father left for work the previous night and still hasn't returned. Not long after, while relaxing near the river, the family enjoys a peaceful moment together. Bruce and Debbie sit quietly enjoying the view. Bart plays in the water with Bernie, while Ella and Robert spend time alone nearby. During that moment, Bernie remembers Sasha's request and asks permission to leave for about 30 minutes to drive out and search for Ken. When he reaches the area where the incident happened the night before, Bernie slowly drives around while listening to music. However, before he can notice anything unusual, the giant boar suddenly slams into the vehicle and flips it into a ditch. The loud crash and violent impacts echo all the way to the riverside. Fearing something is wrong, Bruce decides to go look for Bernie together with Robert. At the crash site, Bernie manages to crawl out of the vehicle safely. Although furious, he quickly grabs his knife and a fully loaded rifle, preparing to face whatever attacked him. Meanwhile, Bruce and Robert continue searching through the area. Along the way, Robert reveals that he wants to marry Ella. Bruce understands Robert's personality well and still has doubts. Nevertheless, he accepts the idea and reminds him that marriage requires responsibility, especially as a protector and leader of the family. Back at the cafe, Sasha grows more restless as she anxiously waits for news about her father. Ernie tries to calm her down. However, a customer named Jack mentions that a few days earlier, a destroyed vehicle was found on the roadside and a couple had gone missing, supposedly attacked by a giant boar. At first, the story is dismissed as a joke, but overwhelmed with worry, Sasha finally decides to leave the cafe to search for her father, asking Ernie to watch over the busy shop in her absence. Back in the forest, Bruce and Robert continue searching for Bernie. Suddenly, the giant boar emerges from behind the trees. Seeing its enormous size, Robert panics and cowardly pushes Bruce forward before running away. Bruce falls to the ground and has no chance to escape, getting brutally killed by the monstrous animal. Bernie witnesses the entire scene and immediately fires his rifle. The shot makes the creature roar in pain before retreating into the forest. Meanwhile, Robert runs back in terror and shouts to the family that Ella and the others must escape immediately. Not seeing Bruce, Debbie desperately asks what happened. From a distance, Robert yells that Bruce is dead. Before anyone can fully process the news, the giant boar suddenly bursts out from the side and kills Robert instantly. Ella screams in agony as she watches her boyfriend die right in front of her. Bernie immediately gathers the remaining family members and leads them away from the area. They run through the forest, cross the river and keep moving until the sky begins to darken. Despite their exhaustion, they refuse to stop since they still haven't found a truly safe place. When they reach another area, they hear deep growling coming from behind them. The sound grows closer and closer, forcing them to keep running. Bart is trailing behind and suddenly trips and falls to the ground. Within seconds, the monstrous creature charges forward and attacks him. Realizing the situation is getting worse, Bernie grabs his panicked sister and forces her to keep running. While escaping, they spot a small cabin nearby and decide to take temporary shelter inside. Inside the cabin, Bernie tries to comfort Ella, who is still in shock after losing her father and younger brother. However, Debbie sees things differently. To her, the tragedy began the moment Bernie suggested going out for that countryside walk. She vents her anger at her brother, accusing him of failing to protect the family despite his strength and weapons. As midnight approaches, the air begins to grow colder. To keep Debbie and Ella warm, Bernie decides to step outside to gather firewood. He tells them to stay inside the cabin and watch from the windows while he collects wood nearby. But the moment he steps outside, the giant boar appears once again. To give Debbie and Ella a chance to escape, Bernie is forced to face the creature alone. A brutal fight breaks out between them. Despite his strength, Bernie eventually loses the upper hand as the beast launches relentless attacks, leaving him severely injured. Meanwhile, Debbie and Ella manage to run a considerable distance before stopping to rest. They light several small fires, hoping the flames will keep the creature away. However, Not long after, the giant boar reappears. Its body is covered in blood from the battle with Bernie. The small fires prove useless against it. In desperation, Debbie and Ella wave burning torches in an attempt to scare it away, but a powerful charge knocks them both to the ground. The creature sinks its massive jaws into Ella's leg. At that very moment, bright headlights suddenly appear in the distance. It is Sasha, who drives straight toward the beast and slams into it, seriously injuring the creature and preventing it from moving. Seeing an opportunity, Sasha tells Debbie to grab the rifle from the back of the vehicle. After losing nearly her entire family, Debbie unleashes all her rage, firing multiple shots into the monster. Once they are certain the giant boar is finally dead, they prepare to leave the area, but they suddenly freeze when they see Bernie and Bart, badly wounded, staggering slowly toward them. It turns out the creature did not kill them immediately, choosing instead to drag them back to its nest to be eaten later. Relieved that they are still alive, the survivors quickly leave the area together. Although they have survived the horrific tragedy, they have no idea that behind them, an even larger boar is silently watching as they disappear into the distance. And with that chilling revelation, the story comes to an end.